Chapter 13. The Herbalist's Bargain. Dylan stood before Mira's hut, on Bitter Root's east edge, the Bloodvale River's crimson churn, a low roar behind him. The hut was a tangle of vines and bone, its walls pulsing with the jungle's eerie glow, jars of glowing herbs glinting through a cracked window. The town's muddy streets faded into the distance, Bitter Root's feverish pulse drowned by the Bloodwild's purr. Dylan's shoulder throbbed, blood seeping through his torn sleeve. He was no hero, just a gas station loser in a world that chewed up hope. But Mira might know something about Lyss, her trail, her fate, and Dylan couldn't afford to screw this up. He knocked, the door creaking under his knuckles, and stepped inside. The air was thick with earth and spice, shelves sagging with bottles of swirling liquids, dried roots, and bones tied with sinews. A single lamp flickered, casting shadows across a workbench littered with pestles and glowing fungi. Mira stood at the back, a reedy woman in her 50s, her grey hair braided with starbloom petals, her face weathered like cracked leather. Her left leg dragged slightly, a limp from some old wound, but her lavender eyes were sharp. She wore a robe, stained with sap and ash, her fingers nimble as she sorted vials that shimmered like trapped starlight. Mira's eyes glanced to Dylan, lingering on the jagged scars crisscrossing his chest, then settling on his bloodied shoulder where crimson seeped through torn fabric. "You're half dead, boy," she said, her voice rough as gravel. Limping to a shelf, she plucked a vial from a clutter of bottles, its contents swirling like liquid dusk, flecked with silver motes that danced in the dim light. "This elixir, Bloodvale sap, starbloom and marrow viper venom, knits flesh, clears the mind, a marvel, but it's not cheap, 10 silvers, firm." Dylan's jaw tightened, his cunning calculating. He had no coin, no silvers, nothing but what he carried from Earth. His gaze dropped to his metallica tea, torn and blood-stained but intact enough to catch the eye. It was useless here, a relic of a world beyond this one's ken. He met Mira's stare, noting the hint of curiosity in her weathered eyes. "We don't have coin," he said, voice steady despite the pain lancing his shoulder. "But I've got something better, rare, from another world." Mira's brows arched, her lips curling into a skeptical smirk. "Another world, you say? I've heard tall tales before, boy, and I'm not some fool to be swindled. Show me this rare thing, and it better be worth my elixir." Wincing, Dylan peeled off the metallica tea, the fabric tugging at his wound as he freed it. He held it up, the shirt unfolding, to reveal its artwork in the flickering lamplight. The design was striking, a skeletal figure, its bones gleaming with an eerie, almost luminous white, clutched a stringed instrument unlike any lute or lyre Mira knew. A guitar, its curves sharp and menacing. The skeleton skull grinned wickedly, one bony hand strumming the strings while the other raised a defiant gesture as if challenging death itself. Behind it, a storm of crimson and obsidian clouds swirled, etched with lightning that seemed to pulse with unholy energy. The word Metallica slashed across the top, in jagged, blood-red letters, each stroke raw and untamed, like a war cry carved into stone. Mira's eyes widened, her limp, forgotten as she stepped closer, her gnarled fingers hovering over the fabric, without touching it. "What in the seven hells is this?" she murmured, her voice a mix of awe and suspicion. "This cloth, it's woven finer than any loom I know, yet it's weathered like battle armor. And this image..." Her gaze locked on the skeleton, her breath catching. "Is this a god? A demon? What manner of creature wields such a weapon? And why does it mock death so?" Dylan bit back a grimace as his shoulder throbbed, weighing how to play this. "It's not a god or demon," he said, leaning into her curiosity. It's a symbol, a story from my world. But this shirt, one of a kind here, you'll never see its like again." Mira's eyes narrowed, her merchant's instincts kicking in. "One of a kind, you claim? Maybe it's rare, maybe it's just odd. I could sell it to a collector of curios, but 10 silvers worth. That elixir's worth a lord's ransom. I'll give you 5 silvers credit for the rag, and you'll owe me the rest." Dylan's lips twitched into a half-smile, sensing her interest. 5? You're lowballing me, Mira? Look at it. Nothing in your shop matches this, that skeleton, that instrument. It's from a tale no one here's heard. Collectors would fight for it. 8 silvers, at least. She snorted, but her eyes kept darting to the shirt, betraying her fascination. 8? You're bold for a bleeding boy. 6 silvers, and I'm being generous. Or you can keep your strange cloth and let that wound fester. Dylan held her gaze, his voice firm. "The elixir for the shirt, straight trade. No silvers. You know it's worth it. You're already imagining the coin you'll make showing this off." Mira hesitated, her fingers brushing the shirt's edge, feeling its unfamiliar texture. She studied the skeleton again, its guitar and defiant stance, then looked at Dylan, her expression softening just a fraction. "Fine," she said at last, thrusting the vial into his hand. "The elixir for your shirt. But tell me, Truca, what is this Metallica? What story does this bone man tell?" Dylan uncorked the vial, the elixir's sharp, earthy scent hitting him as he took a cautious sip, feeling warmth spread through his torn shoulder, the pain dulling to a faint ache. He leaned back, choosing his words for a world without amplifiers or electric riffs. "Metallica's not a god or demon," he said. "They're bards, but not like any you know. 4 of them wielding instruments like this one." He gestured to the skeleton's guitar. "Would that scream like thunder, fast and fierce, shaking the soul? Their songs tell of rebellion, pain, fighting fate. The skeleton, it's their spirit, laughing at death, saying you can face the void and still stand tall. People in my world gather by thousands to hear them like a tribe around a fire, their voices roaring as one." Mira's eyes gleamed, her imagination caught. "Bards who command thunder and thousands kneel to their song?" She clutched the shirt, tracing the skeleton's form. "This is no mere cloth. It's a talisman of your world's defiance. Keep your secrets, boy, but this trade's fair." She turned, tucking the shirt behind her workbench, already muttering about collectors who'd pay dearly for such a relic. Dylan flexed his shoulder, the elixir's warmth knitting his flesh, clearing the fog of pain from his mind. Kalor's agility pulsed in his limbs, a stolen gift, but the crippling doubt still whispered he was a fraud, unworthy of this world's trials. He pushed it down, Veyr's invisible practice principle, mental rehearsal of moves, steadying him like a lifeline. "Mira," he said, voice low, "I'm looking for a girl, Lyss. 16, bright, missing a week. Her father's a drunk, heavy with fists. You know the Bloodwild's secrets? Have you seen her or heard of her?" Mira's face darkened, her fingers pausing over a jar of pulsing fungi. She limped to the workbench, leaning on it, her green eyes distant. "Lyss, poor thing, came to me 3 weeks back, trading star bloom petals for a salve. Her arms were bruised, fresh from her father's rage. Said she was gathering herbs to escape, to buy passage out of bitter root, brave but desperate. Last I saw her, she was headed to the river's bend, where the sapphire vines grow thick. Dangerous spot. Bandits and thorn skulls prowl there. Haven't seen her since." Dylan's stomach twisted, Lyss's story hitting too close, his coastal town's drunks, his mum's faded voice, his own uselessness. "The river's bend," he repeated, the doubt hissing he'd find her dead, or not at all. "Any crews out there? Anyone who might have taken her?" Mira snorted, her voice bitter. Crew's a plenty, boy. Sapphire vines fetch a fortune, but the river's a death trap. There's a gang, Redfang's lot, led by a bastard called Gavric. They've been snatching stragglers, forcing them to harvest or worse. If Lyss went that way, she might have crossed their path. Or the jungle ate her. She shook her head, her limp more pronounced, as she turned back to her shelves. Her father, Torv, drinks at the Bitter Thorn most nights, mean as a marrow viper, twice as loud. Her mother, Elna, she's a ghost, won't speak, won't fight. You want answers, start with them, but Torv's fists don't take kindly to questions. Dylan's jaw clenched, the doubt screaming he wasn't ready for Torv's rage, for Elna's silence, for a truth that might break him. But Lyss's desperate plan burned in his chest, a mirror to his own flight from despair. "Thanks, Mira," he said, standing, the elixir's clarity sharpening his resolve. "If you hear anything else, I'll keep my ears open." She cut in, her voice softening. "You're not from here, boy, but you've got grit. Mind the river, it's got dangers." She waved him off, already folding the Metallica tea, her eyes gleaming with plans for its sale. Dylan stepped outside, the Bloodveil's roar louder now, the jungle's crimson glow painting the hut in feverish hues. Bitter root streets churned in the distance, merchants and mercenaries chasing the Bloodwild's wealth, oblivious to a girl's fate. He shuddered, as if Eryndor itself was watching, daring him to break, but Veyr's principle, visualize, sharpen, kept him grounded. He pictured his dagger's thrust, clean and precise, not to kill but to defend, to survive. Lyss wasn't just a job, she was a piece of him, a chance to be more than the loser he'd been. He headed back toward the Bitter Thorn, the town's pulse quickening as dusk fell, lamps flaring in shacks and stalls. Veyr and Zariel would be waiting, their own leads weaving into his. Torv's drunken rages, Elna's silence, Gavrik's bandits, they were closing in on Lyss, but the Bloodwild's jaws were wide, and Dylan wasn't sure he could face them without breaking his vow. The wilderness didn't care for his fears, only his choices.